Hey everyone, this is Dr. Lorenzo Neal. Thank you so much for thinking it not robbery to come to my channel. And if you have not done so, I want to take this opportunity to invite you to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button and the bell for notifications when I upload new videos. Today I'm going to give a response and commentary to the interview between Tamron Hall and Andrew Gillum. If you're not familiar with who Andrew Gillum is the former mayor of Jacksonville, Florida, and former gubernatorial candidate for the state of Florida. He lost the election in 2018 by, I think, a percent or just half a percent, but it was a very close race. And it seemed that he took it pretty hard. And earlier this year, he was found inebriated and somewhat unresponsive in a hotel room in Miami. And after giving him medical attention, it was discovered that he was involved with was in the room with two other men, one who happened to be a male escort. He initially denied any, and I do mean any, iterations of sexual impropriety by stating he may have been set up to do so. And afterwards, he just laid low for the last several months until this initial interview with Tamron Hall on her television show. And this is the meat of the matter. In the interview with Tamron Hall, he and his wife addressed some very, very vulnerable issues within their relationship that I have to commend them for doing. Public figures are under a lot of scrutiny, and apparently they are no different. But he comes out and he states to Tamron Hall that he identifies as bisexual. In the interview, this is what he said. He says, to be very honest with you, when you didn't ask the question, you put it out there, is whether or not I identify as gay, he said to the talk show host Tamron Hall. And the answer is, I don't identify as gay, but I do identify as bisexual, and that is something that I have never shared publicly before. He goes on to say, the truth is that, Tamron, everyone believes the absolute worst about that day. At this stage, I don't have anything else to conceal. And end quote. In the Washington Post, where I'm drawing this primary source, it goes on to talk about the bravery of him as a public official coming out, identifying as bisexual, and the spectrum of the LGBT community within the African American community. Well, I'm just going to say black. Within the black community, there's still that sense of shame. That's the best word. There's this sense of shame when it comes to same-sex attraction, homosexuality, gender, all of that stuff. And we are learning the breadth of the community, of the LGBTQ community. So you have it's a broad community, and within the broad community, they still face that discrimination, and in some cases, even blacks within that community face discrimination on a whole different level that I can never identify with, and I'm not going to even try to identify with as a cisgender male. So he comes out and he shares the idea that he has been wrestling for a good deal of his life. And now you have to understand, to ascertain political success in the black community, you have to promote the image just as the same as a pastor. You have to promote that squeaky clean traditional image. We bought into that for whatever reason over the several generations, iterations of this first family. And that's the first family in the church, the first family politically, You know, even first family when it comes to entertainment. That's why we had, you know, we held Will and Jada to and Jay-Z and Beyonce and who else? Black Laurel, you know, black stars to a higher level. Ozzy and y'all know who I'm talking about. But we held them to a higher level because however we've been conditioned from the times of enslavement to this day, we've been conditioned to see a black family as husband, wife, children. And then, you know, as the moral majority rolled that out in the latter part of the 70s and early part of the 1980s, and they pushed that among American conservatives and Republican Party, they shaped that imagery for us even more so, that as the end of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century rolled along, and we were beginning to see the different the different variations of families, blended families, more blended families, and of course now same-sex loving families. As we've seen this, we as a community have wrestled with this for the longest of times, and I don't think we will ever really be comfortable, overall speaking, in the most general sense. I don't think we'll ever be comfortable as an African American community with the concept of, you know, the LGBT community in its breath. However, in our interpersonal relationships, we'll be all right, because every last one of us got somebody in the family that identifies as part of that community, and we know who they are, and we love them. We may shun them. Some shun them, some embrace them, and some know that they are a bit over the top, but they are family. But at the broader sense, when it comes to public figures, we don't want to see, and I'm speaking in the most general of terms, we don't want to see those persons who identify as part of that community in any leadership roles in the church, in politics, in entertainment. I'll say even in entertainment, we don't want to see that. It says a lot about who we are when it comes to our values. And for the most part, the black church plays the greatest role in describing and detailing and imparting what our values are. And in large part, the black church is still very much socially conservative. You know, we may not vote conservative. There are very few of us who are Republicans or identify as right, center right, or anything like that. But we observe those values so much so that we expect our children and our families to reflect those values that we learned within the constraints of our religious experience. And as more and more black people differentiate their religious experience from their lived experience, and that's the real part there, differentiating their religious experience from their lived experience, then we'll begin to see more things like that of Andrew Gillum. What does that mean politically? I don't know, because the idea of what a black leader looks like is not reflected in the LGBTQ plus community. That's not it. We're still looking for a strong voice, a strong Malcolm, a strong Martin, a strong who else? Female voice. We're still looking for all of those, you know. And that is how we have crafted our political value in that persona. And we have yet to really find a way to divest ourselves out of that. The other question, the other part of that is Now that Gillum has come out, what does that say about black male, black masculinity? As Gillum stated, he does not identify as homosexual. He identifies as bisexual. And there are those who would say that is the same thing. If you identify as bisexual, you might as well go ahead and identify as homosexual. And there's a fear that the black males are being lost to different things. If we're not being lost to incarceration, if we're not being lost to homicides, gun violence, or anything like that, we're being lost to emasculation and femininity. And when we look at persons who outwardly display that courage and confidence, who are within the LGBT community, then it scares us. Should it scare us? I don't think so, but it does. And because of that, more men are like Andrew Gillum, trying to fit within the conformity of the identity that is supposed to be, that is placed upon them. So they choose to conform to an identity that they really want to be released from, and we won't allow it. So we have a long way to go and a short time to get there. I'm not addressing this from a biblical perspective. If you know me, well, even if you don't know me, you understand where I stand with this when regarding the scripture. Plain and simple, that's just where I stand. So if you have comments, please don't be attacking me. Don't be throwing out verses. We're not going there with this. What I would like the dialogue to be about is, how do we go forward when in this process? How do we go forward now knowing that there are brothers and sisters wrestling in the same capacity as Gillum and his wife and their family, their children who will grow up knowing, about this? How will we, as a black community, how do we go forward? How do we have the dialogue to move forward without completely destroying the imagery and the construct, the social construct that we adapted to? Some will say we were forced to adapt to it. Either way, we've created this social construct and we tried to maintain the social construct. And the idea of a first family is empowering to us. That first family being led by a strong black man. I was watching one YouTuber who stated that if President Obama, former President Obama, if he had been married to a white woman, if he had been married to a non-black woman, or if he had identified within the spectrum of the LGBTQ community, he would not have gotten elected. He would not have gotten black votes. Black people would not have come out for him at all. They would have been repulsed, and he would have certainly gotten progressive votes. Those blacks who are a little bit more progressive, liberal, and things like that, they would have supported him. But overall, he would not have gotten it. So we have to address this, because there are more men and women like former Mayor Gillum who are wrestling with this identity issue. Anyway, that's all my commentary on that. I'd love to hear what you think about that in the comments, so please do so. Leave comments, and when you do so, please be kind. All right? Be kind in the comments. Also, I wanted to again invite you to hit that subscribe button and the bell for notifications. And if you would be so kind, become a Patreon. The information for Patreon, becoming a patron, is in the description box. Until next time, this is Dr. Lorenzo Neal. Thank you so much. Have a great day.